The chapter. The chapter. Woo! The chapter. Yeah.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to the chapter. I am Jake. I am a professional starfish breeder. I am joined today by my two mates, Simon and Dean. How are you, fellas?
G'day.
My health is with me.
Right. We are speaking about animal captivity and the morals and ethics behind, the captivity of
Animals,
free
yeah.
animals.
Self-explanatory, really.
Yeah.
The ethics of animal
The
captivity.
unnaturalness. Like if we go straight into it, looking at SeaWorld, they get all these animals to do tricks and perform shows. Like the show that I remember is to do with a sea lion, and he's part of a story, and he's like an actor. And just like the seals aren't supposed to be actors.
Yeah.
Like, the seals are supposed to be seals, just not acting in front of a crowd.
Yeah, I
So
know what you
it's-
mean.
it's
Okay.
wrong.
Yeah.
There's a lot of controversy, especially recently associated with SeaWorld. There's a movie called Blackwater, or a documentary. Have you heard about it? Oh, no, not Blackwater, Blackfish. My bad. Blackfish, and I think they were investigating just SeaWorld and how, I'm about to say inhumane, but just, that wouldn't really make sense. Kind of just how cruel and atrocious some of the environments are that these dolphins are being held in, like these tanks, and that are just disgustingly dirty and just things like that.
Yeah, look, of course they're going to be, if you're comparing it from
But have you guys heard about Blackfish?
I have heard about it. I don't know too much about it, but I
Yeah, you
know
gotta watch it.
it's taking the activism world by storm.
Yes.
But if you're comparing a 10 by 10 meter metal tank to the expansive ocean of Limitless, like you could say, look, the Earth is the limit there. It's not even a fair comparison. But the thing is, these animals have never known anything other.
Oh, but some of them have, though, unless they're bred.
True.
Not all of them are bred. I don't think a lot of them are bred, man. A lot of them are just captured.
There's a bit
man.
of
like the
word getting around from the Olympics. They captured two orcas to be placed in tanks for the Olympic Games. And there's a bit of protest, and they sent a petition around, and they're not going to do it now.
Oh, really? They're not doing it anymore.
But they were saying the Russians still advocate the capturing of, say, wild orcas, compared to the US, which hasn't asked for an wild orca to be captured since 1989. So
Publicly.
almost they're just under 30 years behind the practice. You know what I mean? So, taking animals from the wild, putting them in tanks, yeah, there's a big difference between what they're expecting or what they're comfortable with. But even on a human level, we only know as much as our boundaries allow us to. So if you're born in captivity, maybe they don't know any difference. And the ethical questions of that would have to be weighed differently, substantially differently from those that are brought from captivity into the wild. So if we were to plunge a little deeper here, can we treat wild caught, put into captivity situation different to born in captivity? To me, there's a huge gap between the two.
I don't
Yeah.
think
Based on my just thought up premise right there.
Yeah.
What I was thinking was just now, it's like, my opinion is that it's wrong to take an animal, like capture an animal and put it into captivity in a climate where it's not used to it. For example, polar bears. We have some at SeaWorld in Australia and at Dreamworld and all that stuff. This climate is just
Climate, mate.
climate is just
Bloody climate in
completely
Australia.
wrong for them. Like, they're supposed to be in the Arctic tundra, and they come here, and it's just
Really for the
But they make some
entertainment.
compromise.
For our
I mean,
entertainment.
they're not throwing them into 40-degree heat. They're throwing them into 40-degree heat with water that's 5 degrees Celsius and air conditioners that are... Like, in some way, it's synthetic, but it's,
Yeah,
it's
but
somewhat
it's-
representative of.
It's still unnatural though to like have an
Extremely
artificially
unnatural.
made climate. Is just it's messing with their genetics.
For sure. For sure.
Big claim.
I think it is. I would say it is.
Do you reckon?
For sure. Think about it.
Like if they're breeding in captivity in this artificially made climate, then those polar bears that are going to be born and born and born after generations are going to be.
Yeah,
If you took them back, those born in captivity polar bears back to the Arctic tundra after a few generations being in an artificial climate,
far
they're
removed,
gonna-
but only generations upon generations would you see any evolutionary difference.
But you still have changes in little frequencies. There wouldn't be like on a special level. Like you wouldn't see like
Yeah,
macro
Polar bear turns
evolution.
black.
It wouldn't be like that, but it'd be changes in the frequencies, don't you think?
Yeah, look,
There'd have to be, wouldn't they? If your environment changes or affects your genetics, then that's their environment.
true.
Should
So
be-
on a genetic level, do you think we're ethically obliged to keep these guys in nature? I think humans are the biggest parasite on this entire earth.
Oh,
If we
fucking
can
earth.
be self-aware, we can recognize that. So is it ethical for us, because we are aware of how much we're destroying the environment, that we can take animals from a dying world and place them in a place where their genes evolutionary beneficial for us to help them to carry their progeny on to the days of the earth unknown to us now?
Yeah.
That's an ethical question.
But if they are taken into captivity and we're like trying to save them, and my theory of like their genetic predisposition is going to be changed,
Hmm.
then it's not going to be the same animal as it was when we first captured it. So we're not
What
really
good
saving
is
the
it?
But
species,
only
it's
slightly,
changing.
though. Not enough for it to not be able to recognize and be able to survive in its natural environment.
Hmm.
Well, I guess you see it with the domestication of dogs in one instance. Like, do you think a Chihuahua, if you just chucked it into the wild right now, would survive? Or even some of these little things, maybe like a Rottweiler would, because they're fucking, they're pretty badass. But
So
smaller
they're bred
dogs,
for like
yeah, they're bred for just vicious
masculinity.
shit, yeah,
Yeah.
guard dogs. But this topic arose pretty much because of the recent capture of the orcas in the Russian Olympics, and the Russian Olympics, I suppose it's in Russia, but in the Winter Olympics, and that's why we started talking about this. But yeah, that's one of the things Russia did, didn't they? They captured 2 wild orcas to be put, and it wasn't really even the Olympic Commission. Hey, it was just like a different organization that was then kind of like branching off from the Olympics. Like they had like a marine park.
And
or
it's
something like that.
basically touching on what Jake said before, is taking animals from the wild, bringing them to, for example, SeaWorld for our entertainment. You're saying SeaWorld is there exclusively for our entertainment? Maybe to begin with. Maybe that was to begin with, but they're doing a lot of work now of nurturing animals. Like Moreton Bay, for example, they take dugongs that have been hit by boats. They take the young from there, rear them, and then reintroduce them to Moreton Bay. So they're doing some sort of conservation work.
Yeah.
So that whole entertainment thing, I think, is where we've got to approach this from, because you can't really argue. You could definitely pick some nitty gritty ethics out of, well, should you just let the young dugongs die?
If you're gonna go to like
Yeah, like do you? I don't think we
natural
want to go
selection and
there.
shit.
I don't think we want to go there.
I could just like come in and say, but one good deed's not enough to redeem a
well,
lifetime
that is
of
natural
wickedness.
selection, and it's
But it makes a difference to that dugong.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're opening up a whole almost rabbit hole that I am willing to go down. Don't not think that. I'm
Yeah.
willing to go there. But I'd like to go down that whole entertainment thing.
Yeah, well, keep that in, but I just want to say, like, before I get away from this too much and forget to say it, I read the other day, now I didn't read this full article, so I might be speaking out of my ass here, but I read that a giraffe in Africa, in like this safari, was killed, completely healthy. They shot it down because they didn't want it to be inbreeding with its own young.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
they're
they
killing
just killed it.
they're just killing
Did you hear that as well?
Fed to the lions, yeah.
What was that
Some
it
shit.
published in?
It's just recent, very recent. like
Yahoo
2 days
Answers.
ago. Good old Yahoo Answers.
No, it was some reputable source. So
I didn't read it. Well, I saw it. Where I saw it was in the Facebook trends. It just said, "Oh, well, this so and so company slaughters or kills a healthy giraffe to feed the lions."
yeah, to stop the inbreeding between the
Yeah.
giraffes. And I was
Unfounded
just like-
rant. I think that's utterly stupid. Ethics is fundamentally a human invented thing. If we go back to that whole idea, yeah, someone got a message. Good times. You have a universal right, and right is a human invented thing, but you almost have inherently in you the ability. If you're hungry, you should go and eat food.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? No one. That's not a right. That's
Yeah, the
almost
natural
an
man.
instinct. Yeah, natural man.
That's a
You know what I mean?
basic
So like,
instinct.
if you are a giraffe and you need to reproduce for your species to continue, then you have universal freedom of ability to have a next generation. That you should be free to have offspring with your cousin, because otherwise that's just dumb. Otherwise you're going to die. Otherwise you're going to extinct. There's no hope for your species.
Yeah.
So I think we're encroaching on that. If we think, oh look, we're smart enough, we can look. We know inbreeding leads to bad things. Given the Egyptian family tree, we know bad shit happens. They get weird heads and stuff. But let's not let that happen to giraffes. I think that's unfair to the giraffes.
Funny
Yeah, that's what I. Yeah.
Funny you say you want to mention bringing that up so it doesn't get out of your. You don't lose. You forgot to say it, but. And you were talking about how you don't want to go down the path of. Well,
Entertainment.
should we kill the young Dugons?
Yeah.
But it's both. It's a very similar argument, because you could say. You could go down you could have the. You could approach it from the point, say that. The people who run the reserve are killing the giraffe in order to maintain a, let's say, thoroughbred or strong genetics to prevent inbreeding, because we know inbreeding can result in
Which
mutations.
is
And
ethically sound with having a strong species of
Yes.
giraffe.
exactly, and because of that, it may be alright to kill to let the young dugong die, because.
You know what
I'm
the
just
common
playing the devil's advocate
denominator
right
in
now.
this entire problem is humans thinking about shit.
Exactly, we think it's right.
Yeah. All humans are always, whatever they're doing, have the best intentions at heart.
Yeah, but yeah, I think I don't want
Maybe.
people to think that I think that killing young dugons, letting young dugons die when they've got half a body butchered by a fucking propeller, is fine. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just linking two things.
Yeah.
Every time you hear that sound, that's me filling up a glass
I
of
know.
water. It's not me.
That's actually Simon taking a piss.
It's
Every time
like-
you hear that,
It's just, whoa.
What did I-
you're
empty
fucking
this.
drinking that water, huh? Slamming it.
I have an affinity for animals. And I'm not a fan of zoos. I'm not a fan of the treatment of zoos or circuses, for that matter. But I really admire the connections some people can make with animals to get them to do cool stuff. Like, you've probably seen that video on YouTube where he's like best friends with his dog, and he can get it to do like backflips and stuff and skateboard, and like it runs at him full pace, runs at his owner, jumps into his owner's arms, and his owner licks it up into the air, and this dog is like 10 meters up, grabs onto this like bone or something that's attached to a tree branch,
Oh my
grabs
god.
it, and then lets the owner catch it. Lets him, the
It's a
dog
lot of
lets
faith.
heaps of faith, and that's like a testament to how close we can get to animals. So by saying that seals aren't meant to be actors, well, look, there's a relationship being builded. Oh, moving on. No, I'll whip myself later. There's a relationship being built there, right?
Yeah.
So it's unfair to say that it shouldn't be happening, because I think that's a light in the dark of what could happen. Imagine if we could be that connected to everything, if we could build those relationships up.
That's a valid
Maybe
point.
counterproductive to engineering, but it's like one step closer to us to be able to have empathy for all things on Earth.
I definitely agree, that's a really good point, and I admire that as well. The connection some people have with animals, but I don't think that is the means by which you should get the connection. Is have something, take something from the wild, and take it under your wing, because what you see on SeaWorld is what they want you to see. It's not the whole reality of the story. We're looking at that from our perspective, like, oh, our connection with the animal, that's highly selfish. What about their connection? How do you know they have you know what I mean? You got to be thinking about them as well. And if someone else took you from the wild, from let's say a different race just took you from Earth and said, "Yo, we're going to put you in a zoo right now," especially things like orcas and things which are more like which are actually highly intelligent dolphins. Yeah. Like, did you hear about that orca who just ate its
I did see that.
Yeah,
a couple months ago.
Ate its what do you even call them?
Handler.
Instructor, handler. It just killed them.
Because they could handle something like 6 times its size.
Yeah, because they go psychotic. They lose their mind in those little cages. They're not in the wild. And just like us, like, we go psychotic if we're put in a fucking cage. You know?
Yeah.
You get broken down as if you wouldn't be gnawing at the hands of your handler if you're in a cage, or just made to do flips when you have an intelligent thought process, apparently. You know?
Yeah, so it needs to be approached from some point of freedom, but there needs to be an exchange of ideas. Like, ultimately, if evolution is real, went there, that at some point in time, some homo put on the extension, whatever point it was like, hey, look, I've got this great idea, ape man over there. We're brothers and sisters, but I'm slightly more intelligent than you by some genetic benefit.
Yeah.
How about we, like, yesterday when we rubbed those 2 sticks together and it got hot, what happens if we keep rubbing that? What happens if we keep rubbing that?
Yeah.
It's like an external idea was introduced to a system. And you could say that introducing that idea was unfair for old caveman that's used to banging stuff. It's unethical for him. I'm changing his world by doing that, right? But we're doing the same thing with these animals. We're introducing a new idea that they couldn't conceive of themselves, but we're close enough that there can be some sort of comprehension. There can be an exchange of ideas. But what we're really talking about is the extreme. You know what I mean? The gap between the ideas. We're introducing concepts that can't really be used.
We're not talking
in
about
the wild.
dolphins.
Yeah, you know, you could teach a dolphin to do a backflip.
Things in cages.
Yeah,
we're not talking about.
You could teach a dolphin in a cage to do a backflip, but that's not really going to be useful if it was to be reintroduced to the wild. Doing a backflip doesn't really enhance its life, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Dodges the shark attack by doing a backflip.
Yeah, like backflip attack.
But they only do backflips when they're signaled to do backflips. So, you know, they're not going to do it by themselves if they're not, you know, told to.
And if you're getting food because you do backflips, there you go.
Then you're going to do what you must.
Exactly.
Survival.
You're going to do it, or you're going to starve to death. But I think you really need to watch this Blackfish documentary, or at least because I watched it.
All right, we'll pause the podcast. Let's go watch the Blackfish documentary. We'll come back. 5 hours later. Continue, Dean.
In tears. Fucking cut yourself. No, but I listened to a podcast from one of the dugong handlers, and he worked at SeaWorld, and what he had to say was just crazy. Like, he exposed a lot of shit, and the conditions that they were being kept in, he said, were just horrific. It was just disgusting. Like, they'd be kept in their tanks, in like just metal or concrete tanks, and let's say the plumbing system, or the kind of like the sanitation system of that tank would be busted, and the owners of the facility of SeaWorld, they'd just be like, oh, we'll get it fixed, and then they just fucking wait forever to get it fixed, and the water just ends up being like full of algae and just disgusting shit, and then they end up sneaking in at night, and instead of paying like a real contractor, someone who actually does the job properly, they end up just throwing chlorine in, like bulk chlorine, to clean the water.
Yeah.
To get away with paying less. That kind of stuff is crazy, man. You can't be fucking doing that. Dumping chlorine into fucking tanks of dugons, like, that's definitely ethical. That's profit margin.
Just got real.
That's profit margin, man. That's all it is. It's just profit. They want to get profit. They don't give a fuck about anything else. if they cared about something else, you know?
Conservation projects in the hands of crooks would be the result, as seen here.
I don't think it's a conservation.
So, but like
project, man.
everything, I believe these things started with a good intention. We were there to
I
say,
don't know if
look,
they were, I
let's
don't know.
experience nature. Like zoos were there to see, let's look at these wild animals. Let's bring the wild to us.
That's
We
what you
can
see.
control the
You
wild.
might also see like some fucking entrepreneur saying we're gonna get a lot of money because people have never seen fucking
Yeah,
sharks.
but they charge people, and then they go, whoa, I'm a slick businessman. I'm gonna take over this and make money from it. But like, we need to maybe just try and bring ourselves back to the reason that we're here in the first place. And if it means that we can't, and if we can find that connection, that it's like it's just us to experience these animals and share the beauty of these animals, that maybe we can't have all of them right now. Maybe we haven't got the facilities or the funds to have all these animals and provide an environment that's safe and healthy. That was really Australian. Safe. Safe and healthy and ethically in line with what we believe right now. But I don't think we can lose connection with the reason that they're there in the first place. Because we're all there to experience the beauty and the majesty of these
But
animals.
do you see where we go wrong from the get-go? Is that we, humans, we're not thinking about the animal. The animal is not there enjoying itself. Do you really think it is? It's enjoying itself when it's living with its fucking family, when it's in its natural habitat. That's the problem, I think, is when we're being highly selfish and we don't have empathy. We're not thinking about what it's like for them. We're just like, well, let's experience it for us, and let's look at sharks, and let's look at fucking lions, and who cares about everything else?
Let's
as
put a
long as it's
tiger and a
healthy.
lion together
Yeah,
in a
man,
cage.
that's what they do in China and shit. Like, oh, let's see what a fucking Rottweiler and I don't know, like
Cat can do.
coyote look like when they fight each other. Ah!
We did it. Yep, tick that off.
That
Bucket
makes me
list.
ashamed to be human, man.
It's a sick, sick world.
You know, that's what I think it is. There's ways to look at it. Go into nature if you want. If you want to take the risk, you go see a lion.
Yeah, but things change. People need to recognize that, and I agree that what you're coming from, where you're coming from, where you're coming from, not what's making you come.
Making me come too, baby.
is a snapshot in time of saying we're taking this animal from its life here, but we're providing an environment for this animal to thrive as well. So it is going to this. Okay, yes, there's some bad things going wrong in cages, but ultimately we're providing a nurturing environment, an environment where it can live. We're not providing an environment where it would die, because that would just defeat the purpose of the whole, you know what I mean, escapade anyway. So, like, that animal then starts adapting to its environment. It starts becoming dependent, I guess, on us throwing it a fish every morning. And it's probably it's like us now. We don't go out and gather food every morning. We're just like, why don't the shops just come to us? Why don't we just call up the delivery guy and he brings food to me? The bears are the same. They just get food put on their platter every morning. They're not upset. Maybe they'll go crazy because they're in a small cage, but like a lot of their, let's say, fundamental Maslow's period of awesomeness, all those basic needs are met with us providing it. So you're saying that animals are capable of higher levels of achievement?
What I'm really trying to get at is that we don't know. We're just assuming.
But we do know,
And
because
is
they
that
go
right to even
crazy, and
assume?
that
How do you
and
really
going
know?
and mentally, if you're at a point where your environment is driving you to a point of like insanity, I think that is above basic needs, right? You've got food, you've got shelter, you've got water. That ticks all three off. The only level above that would be, okay, let's mental well-being, and in that saying, animals are capable of more.
But even when you say that the animals do get proper food and stuff, how do we know that they're not getting food like in excess? Like, do they actually go out and, you know, look at how much like a bear would eat? Like, for example, you've got lions in captivity, and these lions do not grow to be the size of a wild lion. Like, their strength and their stamina is much less than what it would be if it was in the wild. But yet they may be still fed the same.
Africa's just teeming with excess food. I agree, though.
Yeah. So it's just, how can we
I think
justify
they would.
that we're providing them the right type of food and diet if, the results are clearly showing that our animals that are in captivity are so much less physically, adept than the ones
Simon,
in the
I
wild.
think that you're coming at it, it's from a very, your intention, you're coming from a very good intention, from a very pure place. You're not, I don't think that everyone else, the people who are running these places, are coming from the same perspective. Like, oh, well maybe we are driving these animals to
Greater stage
stages of
evolution.
consciousness and
Yeah.
evolution.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think they're thinking that. They're still trapped in their own little game of
Little like,
profit
mate,
and
I'm going to
ego.
get hot dogs after I sell this polar bear.
That's like
thing.
the mind view of a fucking Jesus who's running the the sanctuary.
Thank you for saying I'm like Jesus.
I'm just saying.
That's
I'm just saying that it's a
that's
very
humbling. But I know
if
what
you
you
want to
mean.
make that correlation. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything. I just put it out there.
It's not a correlation. You said you're like Jesus. So I'll take it for what it's worth.
I'm saying that Jesus had good morals, I'm assuming he had good insight.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying, okay. Not saying anything. Shut the fuck up.
But you're
But
saying
it's
the average person isn't that
Aware
in
like the way.
tune with everything else.
Yeah.
But it's the corporate people who are in charge of the zoos. Like, I mean, you've got your
Yeah.
zookeepers who are working in the zoo because they love animals and they want them seen treated correctly and proper. But then you've got your fat money bags who just like, fucking who cares? We want the money. So make the seal do this and bring more people in. And I don't care if the seal's unhappy or not, as long as I get the dollar.
But you'll see that there's going to be a global shift in the way. Like, us even talking about this concept was not even brought up 100 years ago. When I was at the Melbourne Zoo, they now have a presentation or like an exhibit of a cage that they used to keep monkeys in. A monkey, a gorilla. There's nothing in it, but the exhibit is an empty cage of how we used to have a gorilla.
Yeah.
So that in itself is sparking some sort of debate and discussion about, oh, look, we have come a long way. So we can get angry and like clench our fists at how shit things are now. But I think things are moving in the direction that we want them to. We're just getting angry and hope they'd move a little bit faster. Which they should, because why not? Like, we've gone from cell phones that were like a brick to the size of my finger in 20 years. So why not move a little bit more on that whole animal rights sector?
When I was at Dubbo Zoo, the cages of the howler monkeys, they were actually pretty decent. They were cool. Like, they had ropes and trees and stuff. You could just see them swing across a massive expanse, which is nice to see. And then they'd climb up this 8-meter like high pole and just like sit at the top of it, and it was like looking down at us. One of the monkeys, there was like 7 of them in this one enclosure. And I don't know, it was good to see that. That was back in 2005.
People on the dole
So-
have that much fun, man. They don't have anything to do. They haven't got an aim in life. You just go, look, life's about fun. And that's a reflection, without like tongue-in-cheek, but a reflection of a life that's aimed at living every day to its fullest.
Mm-hmm.
That they aren't probably worried about paying tax or threatened from an external invading force.
Yeah.
So they can take advantage of that sort of stuff. And maybe like we aren't giving them the opportunity to advance from that. So we're just like, look, the monkeys are happy just throwing poo at each other and doing backflips and stuff off that log. Do they need much more? Do they need to go wander 50 kilometers from their home?
And in saying that, it's like how the white man came to Australia
White man.
and started forcing Christianity down the throats of all the natives. It's like, why they were perfectly happy doing their own thing, but we just came here and just ruined it for them.
Saw a cool meme, and it was a US government dude was talking to a high up Indian chief dude, and he was saying, look, it's clear now white men have brought a lot of problems to this world. What do you think is an issue, or what do you think the single most thing is? And the Indian dude thought for a moment. He said, yes, they have screwed it up. So before the white man came, all we did was there was enough buffalo all the time. Women did all the work. Men spent all day hunting and gathering. And all we did at night time was have sex.
Yeah.
Only white men are stupid enough to think that they can improve that system.
Yeah, I've seen that movie. I've seen that very similar movie. Yeah. It's like we had this, we had that, and then everyone else thought. To us, some cunt thinks it's better than everyone else.
Yeah.
It comes across like, nah, the way you're living is shit. We're gonna fucking turn you into a civilized nation.
Civilized.
You disgusting tribal. And like Immortal Technique talks about how, like, white man came there, and a lot of them are like, they're on this ship. They haven't bathed in like fucking so many months. Some of them are rapists. Some of them are killers. And they come to these places and they go, no, you're the savage.
You're the savage.
And then they look at them like, really, I'm a fucking goat herder who provides for his family and has sex all night, and I'm the savage.
Yeah.
And you're a serial
You're on a boat
rapist.
with a bunch of men stinking it up, and
Yeah.
you have scurvy.
Exactly. And you're like some rapist. Really.
Rapist.
But
The
because-
epitome of a bad way to be.
The epitome of an evil person.
Yeah.
But because you discovered, like, what? Canvas or some shit a few hundred years before us,
Hmm.
you're more civilized.
Look, we tend to have some pretty harsh views against our own sort of heritage. Do you think that's a good thing? I think it's a great
I
thing.
think it's a good thing. Yeah.
Through conflict comes change.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're, learning from our mistakes so we can grow as a populace.
Mm-hmm.
Populous. So, those animal rights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was a child, I loved going to Australia Zoo, seeing all the snakes and the crocodiles
Why?
and stuff. Because for the entertainment factor, oh wow, I've never seen a crocodile before. This is going to be awesome. It's going to
Well,
be huge.
what
and
happens
it's
when you
eating
saw
meat
that
and-
crocodile?
And then I saw the crocodile, and then I'm just like, yeah, it's just doing stuff that it's told to do. But if I was like in Cairns or Townsville water skiing behind a boat in a river or a dam where the crocodiles are just naturally there, and you got to watch your back because they're going to be after you, well, then that's a totally
Yeah, I don't know how much
Very
reptiles
different.
have like gone along that whole evolutionary line. If whether this is ignorant, whether crocodiles are sentient beings, if they're aware of their life, because they seem to be, and as it's exemplified at Australia Zoo, for example, that they're very much stimulus response. Here, there's a bit of chicken on the end of the stick, and the crocs are just like, food,
Yeah.
snap, water skier, snap. You know what I mean? They're not, as far as we can tell from our human experience, on that same wavelength as us. But we can tell through other mammals that they have some sort of higher connection or a higher value. Like they get sad, they can miss their owners, they have dreams. Does the crocodile have a dream? What is it going to be? Snap.
I've heard that. I've read something recently that apparently they can set traps. Like they
Crocs
go
can
and
set snaps.
They make traps.
snappy traps.
Yeah.
Snappy traps.
But if
In my mouth.
if it's, if it's yeah. I mean, if it's to the point of like a really crazy cool trap, if it was just like a twig or something, they place on the left side of the river.
Like a conspiracy.
The transdimensional
20 years
reptilian
in the making.
crocodilian beings are actually
Yeah, it's the reptilians.
highly
Yeah.
evolved in the second dimension,
Yeah.
and they're shifting through our realities.
Yeah,
David Icke.
that's it.
Have you seen that video? It's on the Nile River. It's like a battle between a herd of buffalo, lions, and crocodiles.
That's
I've
awesome.
seen that
It's
shit.
epic. Like,
That lion fucks up the crocodile. He's like, fuck off. Like, the lion just looks at him and is like, you should just back away now.
Yeah.
like they pick off
Crocodile
that.
a fucking lineup though, man. Ooh.
They like pick off the like baby buffalo, and then the buffalo come back and try to save it, and then it sort of like gets towards the water, and they're all like having charging at each other, and the lions are backing off because the whole herd of buffalo are there and they're freaking out. Then like the crocodiles just come out of nowhere, out of this water, and try and snatch up.
That's
And then
right. That's right.
and then the lions are just like, "What the fuck is that?" And then just
Well, a bit interesting. The lions run away because the buffalo are ganging up on them.
yeah,
But the lions will tell the crocodiles who's boss. To me, that's
until they're in
amazing.
the water.
Until they're in the water, yeah. But have you seen that other video where that crocodile's like up to the water? The lion's having a drink, and the crocodile comes up, and the lion looks up, sees it. He's just like,
oh, yeah, that's cool.
yeah. The croc's like hanging out
Oh
there,
shit!
and then the croc and the lion gets even further into the water, and is just like, no, no,
No, stop it!
Kind of
Stop
like
it!
when
No.
I was out in the valley and I walked through a garden and there was some birds having a nest and they were about to attack me defending their nest, and I stood up like a man.
To a
I
bird.
was like, no, I am walking through here. Just showed him who's boss.
I've seen jaguars.
Pigeon nest.
It's like a nest
Big
of like
man.
fucking those little tiny little birds. What the fuck are they called?
Peewees.
Yeah,
Your sparrows.
jaguars are
Sparrow
pretty
nest.
crazy like that. I've seen jaguars fuck up like little gators.
Mm.
Not big ones, but they just run to the water and just gank them
Mm.
and just rip them out of the water. But jaguars are wild, man.
Picky battles.
Yeah.
Picky battles.
Hey, I was gonna bring this up before, but think about this. Let's say even having animals in captivity in the zoo creates a barrier between man and almost the rest of nature, because they're in this little enclosure, and because they're in this enclosure, you don't. It's not like, let's say you're walking around in the forest and you come across like a whole gang of wallabies. Like you almost, at least I do. I feel like I'm in nature, and I'm part of nature, because you're right there. They're not, they're not in this fucking pen. But when you're in a zoo or something, it creates like a division between man and the rest of nature.
Man versus wild.
Yeah, exactly. Man vs wild, where it's not. It's just man and wild, or
Mm.
just wild. So that could be. I haven't thought about it, but it just came to my mind just before. What do you think about that? That zoos themselves, even though they're intended to maybe get nature and man together, they actually do the opposite, because they create division between.
Well,
Because you have this separateness, you see this barrier, this compartment between this is man, this is nature, this is how nature's supposed to, you know what I mean?
well, it's not real because
Exactly,
it's not real
it's
nature.
fabricated.
I mean, if you just like materialized like right now, or nature materialized around us,
Yeah.
and there's like a leopard in the tree or a panther in a tree just looking down at us, do you reckon we're going to be like, oh, cool, look at that panther. Oh, let's just stand here and just look at it while it's staring us down? We're going to be like, oh, fuck, there's a panther. We should probably go.
Yeah.
Like, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
We're not
It's
just
not a
gonna-
true reflection of.
We're not just going to be willingly standing around with all these vicious animals that are going to eat us. Like we say, humans are at the top of the food chain. That's only because of captivity and shit, not because we're awesome hunters or
We
fighters.
can get fucked up pretty quick, man. A little brown snake, not
Shit,
too big.
yeah,
Bites you,
definitely.
you're dead straight away. You ain't got shit, man.
Power in numbers.
We got intelligence. I mean, more intelligence than I'm
We got a few things on our side
Yeah.
that allowed us to get that way. But that whole petition thing is so true with what you said. It's we've removed ourselves, and as modern man, we've had 2,000 years of indoctrination of almost like blindly thinking that we are removed from nature. But the point is that we are part of nature and
Yeah.
have always been that way. So
And we shouldn't, if you want to appreciate something for its real beauty, go out and see it maybe in the wild if you can, or risk your life, because then, the space is
Exactly.
there. It's fun. There is something there which is exhilarating. It's not very exhilarating going to a zoo. I mean, it's exciting, it's fun, but there's something
like people
exhilarating.
getting bothered
going out.
about bushwalkers.
Yeah.
The number of
Yeah, go
bushwalkers
fuck
is
your mother.
increasing.
So I
The
said
number
then.
of bushwalkers is increasing. There's too many people out here. But like that reconnecting, you could say, well, yeah, there's only a few of us that are bushwalking, enjoying nature, and the rest of them are scum and burning the world. Well, if there were more people out there bushwalking and enjoying nature, it means that maybe not more people are joining your team, and there's not so many dumb, blind, evil people out there as there used to be. So I think we're on the threshold, if not past it. We're on the cusp of a new change. that
Change
we're
is
going to
super quick,
see
man.
that people are going to start reconnecting. Like this discussion, that Melbourne Zoo example, the whole orca thing. It's like people are becoming concerned with stuff. Greenpeace are, but they take it way too far.
Yeah, that's extreme.
A lot of the
Boarding
people,
ships.
in terms of that SeaWorld thing, if I don't want to interrupt you, but that SeaWorld thing, a lot of people cancel their appearances at SeaWorld. They cancelled events with SeaWorld. Well, like cut. I don't know if they cut SeaWorld from a sponsor, but I heard that a lot of bigger names will just watch the film. They're just like, wow, this is fucked. Like, we need to cut out ties with SeaWorld, otherwise everyone's going to think we're just a bunch of evil cunts.
Mm.
So things are changing pretty rapidly thanks to the internet, thanks to information.
Mm.
Things are changing pretty damn quick, man. Like, maybe it's confirmation bias because you're looking for those things and you're looking for change and you're hanging out in those circles where there's more petitions, there's more people talking about those things. And before, you weren't in those circles, so everything else seemed like it wasn't advancing, even though it was. Get it? You're just blind to the fact that it was. I don't
You
know
only
if
have
it's
to look
that.
at the mainstream media for that sort of stuff
Yeah.
to realise that
According to the
it
mainstream
is
media,
bigger
everything's
than our
going downhill.
circles. Pardon?
I mean, according to the mainstream media, I don't know if the world's evolving and much things are changing.
We're
A lot of
de-evolving.
things, we're actually getting dumber. The brain is going in half.
The brain's getting smaller. We don't need to be as smart because we don't have to survive.
However, you should buy the new Apple iPhone because it comes with its own
Brain.
feeding device now.
Like, I disagree with that, but I'm pretty sure the science speaks for itself that our brains are getting smaller. But maybe our brains are getting more efficient. And there's a hypothesis
Yeah,
to
definitely.
test.
Well, our brains are smaller than brains of chimps. Chimps aren't smarter than us. We just the connections, because I did that poster.
Pretty sure I'm smarter than an elephant.
Yeah, it's not brain size. It's body ratio which matters.
It's brain functionality.
Yeah, it's synapses. Because I read this on the topic of that. Rat brains, like body to size ratio, I don't think they're that much different from humans. But the thing is, when rat brains get bigger, the neurons increase in size. But when our brains get bigger, the neurons increase in number. They don't increase in size. You just get more neurons. Whereas rats just get fucking big neurons.
Right.
Hyperplasia versus hypertrophy.
Yes.
Yes, science.
The difference,
people.
I have no idea. No, I
Fancy
do.
word
I'm
for
just
word.
kidding. So,
We got more? Anything more to say?
I don't know. Look, honestly,
I think that's pretty.
wrapped
Yeah,
in a shell.
we've said what we need to say. Like, we've touched on the issue and we've discussed it, and it just seems like we're all in agreement, most of it.
That we're
most
on the
of
right
it.
track. I think that the world will continue to change for the better of animals.
So
other
what
than
should we be
humans.
doing right now? What do you think we should be doing right now? In terms of trying to stop these things, or should we petition? Should we
Yeah,
expose more
petition.
information? That kind
We
of
saw
stuff.
those orcas got
Yeah,
stopped from being shown at the Olympics. Why not?
yeah.
Why not? Like, if enough people, consensus, reality, if enough people believe it's the wrong thing or right thing to do, then it will happen. So the challenge is to convince other people. It's awareness. It's bringing these issues to the
Awareness.
forefront of discussion. So orcas probably been done. Like, you know what I mean? It's not jumping on the bandwagon. It's creating a bandwagon as well. So it's seeking out other injustices that you can see. So Jake, if you feel that seals shouldn't be actors, you should maybe create a seal actors guild where they can, you know, what do people think? And like that may sound funny, but like really the point is that you could make something as ridiculous as that, the Seal Actors Guild.
You get tons of people.
Rights. Yeah, people would love that.
What is that? What's a seal actor? And then-
Real rights for seal actors. Should this what are they asking for? What are the seals asking? If
Yeah.
they're going to be actors, what should they get?
But when like in saying that, it goes to all animals like all animals with movies. Like, for example, the Beethoven movies with the big dog. I don't
Yeah.
know what kind of dog it is, but like that, and then you've got all of your films that have animals in it. They're all sort of trained, and for example, Pirates of the Caribbean's got the monkey, who's trained and does his thing. What I'm trying to say is that if I can't just go with seal actors, it'd have to be animal actors, like animals across the board in films, in shows, circuses, everything.
Indeed, but this is probably another discussion topic.
You know, anyone that has had animals before, pets, that kind of stuff. Like I have a cat, had cats all my life. Maybe have you got any guys had dogs?
Yeah, I had dogs.
Yeah, well, you know that a lot of them are just, they go up to you, they'll sit next to you, that kind of stuff. They want like a connection. They want to spend time with you, that kind of stuff. And sometimes with my cat, if I'm like away from home too much, you feel bad because who do they have? You voluntarily you adopt to them from their mother, it's taken to your home, and if you don't have time for them, and I don't know, man, it's just fucking sad. I think to think that if you put yourself in their position, just being alone and not seeing any humans around, just on your own and being raised by some of the species, and that species doesn't have time for you, like that's fucking depressing as. It makes you sad, dude. Like when people have dogs, they just leave the dog in the yard the whole day. Oh man, that's where it stems from, man. Like you don't need. There's enough of this shit already going on. You don't need more of it happening.
Thanks, Dean. I'm just gonna go kill myself.
Then
My dog.
I agree. I fully agree, and it's because I'm feeling sad. Is because I can empathize with that situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
My brother has 3 border collies, and they are the most well-trained dogs I've ever seen in my life. They're super well behaved, but he does get them out and like exercises them like every day. Takes them for walks, takes them down to the beach, gives them a swim and
That
stuff,
stuff's
and
awesome.
makes them just run and run and run. They'll run for days and
That's
days.
like the way to have a dog. But go on, Jake.
But I'm just like, there's a difference between training a dog to be well behaved and training a dog or an animal to do tricks for fun.
It's the same thing. It's just like a different outcome. You're putting your will on a dog, and there's compliance from the dog because it thinks it's in its interest. Whether that's
It's
to
highly relative, yeah.
sit because you tell it to sit, or do a backflip because you tell it to do a backflip, or play dead, or whatever. I think it's when it has an adverse effect on the animal's mental well-being that it becomes a problem. So, for example, the way that they get elephants to do tricks is by hitting them and shit. Like, that is not good for its mental well-being. You know what I mean? It's complying for best interest in the way that it's fear-based. It's like, if I don't do this, I'm going to get hurt. Compared to probably the way your brother trained his dogs. It's like, if I do this, I get food.
Happiness.
That's where the line is drawn.
But in saying that, what if I don't do this, I'm not going to get the food? Instead of being excited about getting food, it's
then
like,
your brother is a sick
yeah.
man.
If I don't do this, I'm going to starve to death. How is that any different from an elephant being, if I don't do this, I'm going to get whipped?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, you just reiterated that the point is that the line is drawn as to where that kind of incentive is based, whether it's for necessity or for gain. Whether it's because I'm going to die and go hungry, or it's because, hell yeah, I love food, I'll have some more food. At the end of the day, they're going to get fed anyway from your brother, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's not neglectful. I mean, they just don't get like the treats or like the bones. They just get the dry dog food.
Shall we talk about the specifics of the ethics of different types of dog food?
No.
Which one's more nourishing? Pedigree A, pedigree B?
Pedigree.
Some people
With vitamin B.
Some people
omega-3s.
feed their dogs frozen vegetables.
Yeah, dogs love that shit.
Yeah. Stimulates their brain or something.
Shit, man, plenty of calcium in that.
Frozen veggies.
Mm.
Interesting. Do dogs eat that shit in the wild?
I don't think
It's
there
come
is
across
frozen
like
veggies
Well,
in
it
the
doesn't matter
wild.
where they get it from, as long as they're getting the vital.
Nutrients, yeah.
Mm.
I think it's just ultimately it's about empathy. We lack empathy. A lot. We lack a lot of empathy. I think, as a whole populace. Individually, it's different things.
I think it's difficult to have empathy for a cat or a dog or something that you haven't experienced. Empathy, in its definition, is being able to put yourself in their shoes, and we may not be able to do that entirely. So, to some degree, there's some empathy.
Yeah.
But it's compassion. It's having undenying love for something that may not give it to you. Almost altruism, right?
Definitely.
It's just
compassion, empathy.
I just had a thought. We go through school and university and get degrees to get the job, to get the prize that is the job. So maybe in this sense, that's our trick. That's our training. Well, it is called training. But
Yeah.
on
Wow, weird coincidence.
on
Oh,
an animal's level, it's just lot. Like, it's dumbed down a lot. Like, okay, yeah, cool. Do a backflip and you'll get this sweet as biscuit. Oh, Jake, you go do this degree at university, you'll get this sweet job in Canada, in Montreal. If you, yeah, cool.
exactly. There's this incentive along the way. It's like if something doesn't have a purpose, it gets deleted. So if you haven't got a purpose, you create your purpose, and whether that's to do a backflip or whether it's to get a job at Harvard University.
Just something to think about.
It is. I'm gonna go home and think about it. I'm at home. I'm thinking about it now. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that draws a close to this afternoon's discourse on stuff.
On animal captivity and a few branching off topics.
So once again, we want to thank you for listening to the chapter. This is one of our thousands of podcasts that you can listen to. We are just as unqualified as you to talk about this sort of stuff, and that's what makes it so natural, organic, and beautiful, and entertaining.
Exactly. Do it with your friends, bitches.
We'll be back next week with another topic to discuss. And, we'll probably decide what we're going to discuss on the day.
Why don't we do it now? Why don't we say, next week we are going to talk about...
Force-fed media.
Done. Force-fed media.
Sounds good to me.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm already thinking of stuff. Don't think force-fed media makes sense because it's not like Channel 9's forcing you to watch the news. But anyway, let's talk about that next time. Adios.
Amigos.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.